The characters of Life Below Zero lived on the brink for years, testing the limits of human endurance, cold, and solitude. Should I frighten every caribou? I will also frighten the bear. This bear is quite large, yet these are bear tracks. He is not a lone stridulated youngster. Only King Mama Jama is present. The distinction between rumor and truth has never been more clear than it is now that death rumors have surfaced. Is anyone left out there? We lost who? What actually took place behind the cameras? Life Below Zero stood out as something genuinely unusual before everything else was questioned. And perhaps by reflecting on that heritage, we will begin to see why it still has such a strong hold on us now. Life Below Zero's legacy. In Alaska, mistakes are not tolerated by the natural environment. The Earth deserves respect, and the weather doesn't care who you are. Life Below Zero has immersed viewers in that harsh, isolated world since 2013. Far away from modernity and comfort. This isn't a wilderness game show or a pre-arranged adventure. There are no celebrity guests, no eliminations, and no monetary award. Real life is captured on camera as it occurs. The show follows people who live in some of Alaska's most remote areas because it's the card they've been dealt, not for excitement or celebrity. The risk is more real than the cold. You are thrust into the harsh interior of the Alaskan wilderness in each episode. Miles of rivers are frozen. Unpredictably, storms rip across the landscape. There is always snow. Additionally, it feels almost oppressive how expansive the sky is. You see the unvarnished moments that most of us will never experience, like breaking through ice to obtain water or racing across the snow to have dinner in a snowmobile that is sprouting a roof as the blizzard approaches. There are no second chances or rescue crews. If something breaks out here, you have to fix it. You either figure it out or freeze if the generator fails. However, it's not just the survival element that sets Life Below Zero apart. There's no need to exaggerate, it's just that softly powerful. A bear encounter might be as dramatic as a broken snowshoe. If it prevents you from returning home. The week may go without food if a hunting shot is missed. Life Below Zero does an excellent job at capturing that type of pressure. Big scenes and loud drama are not necessary to captivate you. Instead, what keeps you watching is the subdued tension where even a minor error could lead to serious problems. Credit should also be given to the film crew. It's no joke to shoot in a place where daylight hardly appears and batteries freeze in a matter of minutes. They managed to capture these amazing images of actual life taking place in harsh settings while dragging equipment across snowfields and dodging untamed animals. This kind of dedication is uncommon. The show feels authentic because of this. It doesn't embellish or feign the struggle. It just depicts life as it is, which is why it is so powerful. Life Below Zero is fundamentally about independence. Living with what they have, where they are, and making it work even when it shouldn't is what it's all about. The majority of us will never be able to live off the grid, you see. However, seeing someone fish, trap, and construct everything by hand speaks to something we can all relate to: the desire to survive, the pleasure in doing it oneself, and the quiet satisfaction that comes from mastering a world that most people would flee. Additionally, the show sparked a lot of discussion on how we live, how much we truly need as humans, and what it means to respect nature rather than constantly attempting to dominate it. Viewers began researching traditional skills such as food preservation and tool building. It served as a reminder that independence is still strong and not out of date. Life Below Zero developed into more than just a documentary over time. It became a demonstration of what life is like when there are no shortcuts. When the snow is 6 feet deep, there is no delivery service and no app to hunt your food. You are solely responsible. And it strikes a different chord to see people deal with that kind of life without protest, support, or justifications. Shock value wasn't the point. It dealt with truth and the silent fortitude required to face it head-on. That is Life Below Zero's legacy. It got all the drama it needed in the wilderness. It's one thing to survive in the Alaskan wilderness, but it becomes more difficult to put an end to the questions when the cameras stop filming and gossip begins to circulate. There is danger. What about death, though? There are no second chances in Alaska. One mistake, one malfunctioning piece of equipment, or one poor decision in the middle of nowhere might be lethal. The cast of Life Below Zero agreed to that reality. We have witnessed them carrying packs across icy rivers. We have seen them fix broken snowmobiles when assistance is hours or days away, construct shelters in the wind, and skin caribou in sub-freezing weather. From a distance, admiration is simple. However, upon closer inspection, it becomes evident that any of those images may quickly take a turn for the worse. It's possible to become lost out here and never be found. A person could become hypothermic with just one slip on the ice. You're up against a bear that won't back down when you make a single mistake while hunting. No hospitals are in the area. No ambulances are prepared to go. In actuality, the risks are numerous and extremely serious. The questionings start at this point. It's impossible to see a show like Life Below Zero without wondering if anyone has ever failed to return. What happens when the wild finally pushes back harder when you live so far out and are always straining against the edge? Those same questions have been asked by fans throughout the years, which has led to the speculations spreading even further. Online forums, Reddit discussions, and TikTok videos began to post that one of the cast members had passed away. Some called names, while others were evasive. Breaking news headlines, dramatic captions, and screenshots gave the impression that the worst had occurred. All of a sudden, everyone was talking, but nobody could verify whether any of it was accurate. That's the problem with rumors. They spread quickly once they get going. Particularly when the location is already isolated and hazardous. When you're discussing survivalists who live in some of the most extreme environments on the planet, it doesn't take much for a myth to seem plausible. To be fair, there have been near misses in Life Below Zero. Accidents, injuries, and times when everything seemed hopeless have all occurred. Viewers have witnessed equipment malfunctions during winter storms. They have seen characters explain how they nearly failed or hobbled back to camp. Therefore, it doesn't seem implausible when a rumor that someone died surfaced. It sounds extremely plausible. Additionally, it becomes burdensome when the cast stays silent on social media or when an episode concludes with a lone individual venturing into the woods. Individuals complete the gaps. Was there an off-camera incident? Are they all right? How come they haven't posted? What prevented them from returning for the upcoming season? Fans are invested, of course. For a day, they witnessed these people go through things that most of us couldn't bear. Thus, any news, particularly negative news, is devastating. These are not role-playing actors. The rumors are much more disturbing because they are true people leading rough and unvarnished lifestyles. Are they true, though? Was Alaska able to secure one of its own? Or is this just another wild online myth? When seeing the harsh world they lived in, it's time to discuss those who bravely survived it and what actually transpired when the cameras stopped. Sue Akins, the non-flinching woman. Sue Akins is the one character from Life Below Zero that fans never forget. Sue was frank, tough, and extremely independent. She presented her own self to the screen. Sue was born in Chicago on July 1, 1963, although she left the city quickly. She had already been exposed to the wild by the time she was a child. By the age of 12, Sue was learning how to survive off the earth after her mother relocated the family to Alaska. The tone was set by that early encounter. She didn't back down from a challenge. She inclined herself toward it. Let's fast forward to maturity. And Sue rose to fame in Life Below Zero by managing her home at Kavik River Camp, a disused gas station that was converted into a survival base, one of the most remote locations in the nation. 197 miles north of the Arctic Circle, she operated it by herself. The intriguing aspect is that this area lacked paved roads, stores, and neighbors. Nevertheless, she flourished here. Viewers of Life Below Zero saw Sue bring supplies, deal with severe weather, and confront dangers that would cause the typical person to panic. Sue's honesty is what makes her so appealing. Nothing is sugar-coated by her. She discusses the toll and how it affects her. We have witnessed Sue crying and heard her curse storms tearing up her roof, yet she never gives up. She manages the Kavik camp as a business in addition to a place to live. She organizes reservations, pilots, researchers, and daring tourists food and fuel supplies. She became well known as a result of the show, but she never capitalized on it. She remained more private than ever, if anything. Sue's life hasn't been easy off camera. She lost both of her husbands, one to brain cancer and the other to more tragic causes. When Sue is not on camera, she visits her 2 grown children and grandchildren. She claims in interviews that she feels most like herself in Alaska. That way of thinking explains a lot. Alaska doesn't seem like a barrier to Sue. It feels like home to her. Additionally, you get the impression that it's more than just landscape as the camera moves over her frozen surroundings. It's a lifestyle that she is unwilling to abandon, regardless of how vicious it becomes. The lifestyle has taken a toll on the body. She has discussed pain and the difficulties of growing older in the cold in recent seasons. However, she does not have the words to quit. Sue's straightforward demeanor is what makes her so memorable. She mutters, "I can't do it," after attempting to lift a hefty plywood panel onto her roof in one episode. She doesn't stop, though. She splits the board in 2, completes the task, and lets go of her irritation. She was one of the pillars of life below zero because of her unadulterated vitality. Sue was the show's lifeblood. She did not only make it across Alaska. She bent it to fit her. By doing this, she provided visitors with an up-close look at a unique, authentic, and fascinating way of life. You would think that nothing could stop Sue Aikens after everything she has been through. However, there have been several inquiries recently that nobody seems to know how to respond to. Does Sue Aikens continue to live off the grid? Or has she finally been overtaken by the wilderness? A survivor, not a figure. One of the few persons who appears to be impervious to the harsh reality of life in the Alaskan wilderness is Sue Aikens. Confronted a struggle that would have broken most people back in 2007. A grizzly bear attacked her while she was by herself at Kavik River Camp, hundreds of miles from civilization. This is what took place. When Sue saw a male grizzly bear burying caribou carcasses close to her tent at the Kavik River, she took notice. The region served as a helicopter landing pad, therefore these carcasses were problematic. She was aware that she needed to relocate them. She once had to put down her rifle to use both hands to operate the pump while she was collecting water from the river. At that moment, the bear attacked from its hiding place on the riverbank. It took hold of her, pulled her into the tundra, and started what Sue refers to as an alpha push. Bears use alpha push to establish their dominance instead of seeking for food. It's likely that Sue's rapid thinking saved her life. She pretended to be meek rather than instantly retaliating, which confused the bear. This is how she described it. In essence, the bear was warning that if you don't give me your butt voluntarily, I'll kick it. She gained some alpha points by feigning to back down, which decreased the bear's likelihood of intensifying the attack. The bear still bit her head and roughly dragged her about after dislocating both of her hips. She suffered significant injuries, including deep bite marks on her cranium, dislocated hips, and open sores. Sue was able to patch her own wounds in spite of the pain and shock, and she even found the strength to find and kill the bear that had attacked her. But it was not the end of her experience. It took 10 days for someone to discover her stranded and alone. She attempted to contact local troopers and others, but nobody was able to get through. She battled to stay alive in the frigid Alaskan bush for 10 days while suffering from her wounds. She was transported to a hospital when rescuers eventually arrived, where medical professionals treated her wounds and replaced her hips. Sue claims that she can still feel the bear's teeth tearing into her head years later. One could assume that such an incident would cause someone to wish to abandon the wild. Not Sue, though. She is quite tough. She immediately returned to her isolated camp, where she still resides, runs the Kavik River Camp, and greets guests. However, in 2023, internet rumors started to circulate that Sue had died. The source of those rumors is never completely known to us. However, they are wholly untrue. Despite being the subject of several death hoaxes throughout the years, Sue is still very much alive and well as of 2025. She shows her admirers that she is still strong and independent by sharing information about her life on social media on a regular basis. Even at 62, she still exudes the tough tenacity that won her a lot of admirers on Life Below Zero. The hailstones give us a glimpse of Alaskan life, but Sue's story is one of stubborn independence. What transpires when strong familial bonds and unwavering resolve create a completely different picture of life below zero? Agnes and Chip's harbinger, life outside the Arctic Circle. Chip and Agnes Hailstone have created a hardy and firmly established life out there, where the winter sun hardly rises above the horizon and the cold is more intense than anywhere else. Their story emphasizes family, culture, and the preservation of traditions rather than merely survival. They have lived along the Kobuk River, close to Norvik, just north of the Arctic Circle, for many centuries. We'll begin with Chip. At the age of 19, Edward Phoebe Hailstone, who was born in Kalispell, Montana, relocated to Alaska in 1988. What started out as a brief adventure became a lifelong commitment. There was no turning back once the huge, untamed beauty of Alaska seized him. There, he met Agnes, a woman with strong ties to the country and its customs who was nurtured by the Inupiaq people. Together, they created a family and a way of life that combines traditional traditions with the needs of Arctic existence. Along with 2 sons from Agnes's prior marriage, Douglas and John, the couple had 7 children together: Kuten, Tinniak, Eriktok, Caroline, and Mary. Chip and Agnes think it's more than just a practical idea to teach their kids these survival skills. It is a means of preserving their culture. Seeing their kids become proficient in trapping, cooking, and seasonal adaptation tells a story of legacy that extends beyond simple survival. In Life Below Zero, Chip and Agnes juggled checking traps in the cold with cooking by the fire, providing a unique glimpse into their world of toil, near misses, and serene beauty. It is indeed difficult, but for them, this way of life is more than just a decision. It's an association with their origins and identity. Of course, there are challenges in this place. Chip's journey hasn't been easy. Chip encountered significant difficulties in 2017 after he was found guilty of lying to Alaska state troopers while they were conducting an investigation. He was imprisoned for around 15 months. Chip, however, returned to his defining work after his release in 2018. Agnes, on the other hand, made sure the family was stable while they navigated uncertainty together. Agnes's chin tattoo, a symbol of her Inupiaq ancestry that she acquired as a young lady, is among her most prominent features. It's not just ornamentation. It represents maturity, diligence, and cultural pride. That tattoo is a symbol of their great regard for the customs that govern their life and the significance of instilling those principles in their offspring. Chip and Agnes are still living in Norvik today, surrounded by their loved ones and the place they adore. The cycles of nature, the teachings of their ancestors, and the unspoken connection that comes from living near the land hold them fast even while the world around them changes. Now, let's move on to a man whose tale is full of surprising turns and a strong connection to the nature. Holmes, Jesse. Jesse, who was born in a small Alabama town, packed up his life and moved to Alaska in pursuit of a dream that few people dare to pursue. After moving to the small village of Nenana, Jesse adopted a lifestyle that was very different from what he was used to. Raising more than 40 sled dogs and making a name for himself in one of the harshest locations on the planet meant that he was living the Alaskan wilderness, not just surviving it. Jesse's story on Life Below Zero has developed into a potent blend of grit, silent strength, and an unadulterated bond with the land. He spends his days battling the harsh cold, building shelters, and training dogs. He is one of the most well-liked and respected characters on the show since viewers have seen him handle difficulties head-on with composure. And then something happened that put everything to the test. Jesse had a catastrophic mishap in late 2022 while assisting with cleanup in Gullivan following a violent storm. He suffered internal injuries and broke his wrist and ribs when a large piece of debris fell on him. It came really close. But Jesse's attitude remained strong despite being in the ICU. He concentrated on his recovery and was appreciative of the outpouring of support from the close-knit Alaskan community. Jesse's recuperation was more than just getting better. The goal was to return stronger. He poured himself into training and recuperation with a tenacity that mirrored all the qualities that his admirers find admirable. His relationship with his dogs remained unwavering. He made an amazing return because of this friendship and his unwavering drive. Jesse Holmes created history in 2025. The Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race, a demanding 128-mile trek over the snowy tundra of Alaska, was won by him. Due to the lack of snow, this is the longest race, and Jesse finished first with a time of slightly over 10 days. Among the finest mushers in the world. To the applause of both spectators and other competitors, he crossed the finish line in Nome with his team, which included the dogs Hercules and Polar. The narrative of Jesse is more about a man who pursued his passion into the wilderness, almost met with tragedy, and returned to become the best at his sport. His experience on Life Below Zero demonstrates to us the value of perseverance and the strong, unbreakable link that exists between a musher and his dogs. Although not all of the cast members of Life Below Zero remain in the spotlight, their lives continue to move forward and occasionally change in unexpected ways. Routes: 1. Untamed Alaska. There are several names from Life Below Zero that instantly spring to mind when you think of Alaska's untamed tundra. And Andy Bassick is one of them. Glenn Villeneuve and Denise Becker have each blazed their own distinct trails, exposing us to various facets of life off the grid. Andy Bassick, who has come to represent consistent survival on the Yukon River, will be our first example. One of the most consistent performers on Life Below Zero has been Andy Bassick. Andy's life is closely linked to the terrain and the dogs he looks after because he lives close to Eagle, Alaska, on the banks of the Yukon River. He's not slowing down at all at 67. Andy and his partner, Denise Becker, maintain the way of life that fans have grown to love. Maintaining a homestead that requires ongoing care, hunting, construction, and raising a pack of 25 sled dogs. He is a notable character on the program because of his inventiveness and straightforward demeanor. Displaying what it takes to survive in an environment where nature makes all the decisions. His connection with Denise, who moved in with him on the homestead following his divorce from Kate Rourke, gave his story a fresh perspective and brought to light themes of camaraderie and mutual survival in the hostile Alaskan landscape. Additionally, Andy Bassick had a severe health crisis in 2018 that completely altered his life. He suffered a serious injury to his hip while attempting to remove a snow machine that was trapped in deep snow. He almost lost his life as a result of the infection that spread to his bone and muscle. Andy needed to be transported all the way to Florida for treatment because there isn't much access to medical care in the wilderness. There, he recuperated for almost 6 months with his partner and trauma nurse, Denise Becker. His homestead had been abandoned for months by the time he returned to Alaska. Andy pushed himself into repairing his house and taking care of his sled dogs, even while using crutches. Even for someone as tough as Andy, his experience served as a stark reminder of how perilous life in the Alaskan wilderness can be. It also caused him to re-evaluate his goals in life and the pace at which he could continue. Speaking of Denise Becker, Andy's existence off the grid has been subtly influenced by her trip. Denise Becker's life with Andy brought her into the public eye. Denise's role in Andy's story is significant even though she finally left the show due to health concerns. It's difficult to choose to live in such a remote and demanding location, but Denise accepted it wholeheartedly, sharing in the everyday struggles of managing supplies, taking care of pets, and enduring the harsh Alaskan winters. The kind of relationship that may make or ruin a life in the bush is reflected in her quiet strength and determination. Even when she is not on camera, her commitment to this way of life has never wavered. However, after years of living alone, Glenn Villeneuve's narrative took a different route. Glenn's solitary existence and strong connection to the land gave Life Below Zero a certain energy. Due to creative disagreements, Glenn left the show after season 11 and began a new adventure. He currently resides in Fairbanks with Tricia, his partner, and their 3 kids. This transition from remote homesteader to urban family guy serves as a reminder that even the most self-reliant individuals undergo changes in their lives. Living off the earth isn't the only way to survive, as demonstrated by Glenn's experience. It all comes down to adjusting to whatever life presents. And sometimes it entails choosing community over isolation. However, the main cast is not the end of the story. The stakes have been much more permanent on another side of this Alaskan cosmos. Life Below Zero. Port Defense. If the harsh beauty of surviving in Alaska's most remote areas was revealed by Life Below Zero, port protection gave us a greater understanding of what it means to live off the grid. It is not only a spin-off, it is a part of the same cosmos and is made of the same frosty fabric. A tiny number of individuals living in a remote seaside community on Prince of Wales Island were the focus of the 2015 television series Port Protection. Only water, the weather, and sheer willpower, no highways, supermarkets, or even safety nets. The link became evident when the series was formally renamed as Life Below Zero Port Protection in 2020. But branding is only one aspect of it. The same Emmy-winning team created both programs, and their distinctive documentary style is the same. Close-ups of grizzled hands, sweeping drone footage, and the uncanny quiet that only the Alaskan tundra can contain. However, the essence of the narrative is what truly connects them. While Port Protection focuses on creating a living inside the elements, Living Below Zero focuses on combating them. Additionally, fans felt a connection even though the primary characters of Life Below Zero never met Port Protection locals on camera. Those who watched Sue Aiken's braving grizzlies were equally engrossed in seeing someone in Port Protection drag in a fish with their bare hands or construct a home out of driftwood. The dirt was the same, but the lives were different. The extended family has to deal with harsher realities, particularly in Port Protection, where life's endings are genuine and unscripted, even though the core characters of Life Below Zero is still alive. Let's start by discussing Gary Muehlberger, the man who came to represent tough independence. Gary wasn't ostentatious. He didn't try to dazzle the camera or get attention. However, it was his ease of living off the land that made him memorable. Gary had lived under Port Protection all his life and was able to fix a boat out of scrap metal, catch fish while he slept, and converse with neighbors as if they were family. He didn't play, and you could see as soon as he appeared on TV that he had lived up to it. The catastrophe occurred in March 2021. Responders discovered remains inside Gary's burning house when the fire subsided. Gary's death in the fire was confirmed. He was 75. It felt personal to the audience. Memories and condolences were posted in abundance in the comment sections by fans. In an online homage, Nat Geo referred to him as a legend. People from all across the world were grieving for a man they felt they had known but had never seen in person. Gary was the center of Port Protection because he was more than just a fictional figure. Next was Litzy Botello, a woman whose quiet strength left an enduring impression. Litzy was the soul and artist, if Gary was the builder and fixer. With a deep-seated resilience, she brought a special kindness to the screen. Litzy, a gifted sculptor and expert at subsisting on the water, made a strong yet elegant impression on the audience. She chose to remain anchored in that remote area of Alaska, continuing to create and give despite the loss of both of her sons. After fighting cancer, Litzy died in June 2021 at the age of 62. It wasn't a dramatic death. There were no headlines for it. Fans, however, took it hard. Reminiscent of her humor, enthusiasm, and ability to make Alaska feel like home, comments came in. She was strong, but not loud. She didn't have to prove it either. Plot twists were not what these were. They were actual individuals who had lives and tragically lost them. You may still feel them in that area of Alaska. However, is living off the grid truly a noble decision or only a last resort presented in an attractive way to appear inspirational? Please share your opinions in the comments section below. Additionally, remember to share, like, and subscribe. Click the next video that appears on your screen to view more videos like this one.